AI for cyber operations, and we're going to be looking at how we can use Gemini agents to identify, assess, operationalize, and remediate potential attacks or threats that could be coming in. So we can see this dashboard we have here. This is a demo environment with simulated data and a simulated attack, and showing off how we can do what we can do with Gemini agents. You can see here on the left, we have our Gemini mission control chatbot, and this right here is an event that's resembling the Oldsmore incident from 2021, and we're calling it Operation Aquatap. This is a made-up scenario, but there was an alert that received that's critical, that you can see that there are some critical infrastructure for water treatment facilities under active attack. So what we're going to do is we're going to look into a treatment facility that we don't know if the attack is underway, and to see if we can pinpoint it and kind of like look for that attack. So this can be done as responsive to an attack, but can definitely also be done as a reactive as well. So you can see here that we have our data sources that are connected to and coming in. If we click on these, like we can see that we have some activity. We have our data sources that are plugged in, and if we inspect in the raw data, we can see that we have some of it, some of the examples we can see here of what it is. So if we want to look at the critical infrastructure, this part's important. You can see that we have a full asset inventory of assets, and we also have like networking diagrams and other pieces of information that if we look at, we can see that we have some of that information here that we could dive into. So these are all going to be used throughout this demo with Gemini agents. So you can see here the left chatbot has recommended that we actually deploy the Threat Intelligence Fusion Center agent. And this is going to be going through and looking at all the different data connections, the CVEs, ILCs, and piecing together if there's anything that we should be concerned about, look into, and then also help make a plan of what to do next. So you can see here we got a response, pretty detailed. We get it right there. It's APT Hydro that we're seeing some details about that, some known infrastructure that's out there associated with that attack, some weaponized CVEs, some active ILCs, and some other actual assessment. And then we can see here immediate threats identified and others that's being looked at. Now, we're not just digging into this. We're getting the first level of information, and we can see here that Gemini Mission Control is actually doing some work while we're getting caught to speed on the output of the Fusion agent. And it's actually recommending that we deploy the critical infrastructure agent that's going to be going through and knowing about what to look at now with the attack and the assessment, to actually go through and investigate all of the assets that are available and out there. So this is going to be piecing together the architecture diagram of the main critical components without knowing or without following the actual like diagrams, just using them for reference, because there could be a scenario where some of the assets are not in diagrams, right, or connected from different areas or across the country. So this example, we're using a small subset, but this will complete in less than a minute. So we obviously could plug in hundreds or thousands or even more of assets to be able to do this job with. So we're getting a response back from Gemini, and as we can see, that is starting to piece together the actual components of it, and then connecting them with the networking path that it found through the data sets that we have provided. So you can see here that it comes up with a summary and found a critical risk, and it's looking at the priority targets it has and networks paths that it found, and then instead of trying to do all the work at one go, it's actually recommending the next set of agents that we should go through in this pipeline to completion. So it's going to recommend, based on what it found, that we first send it to the vector analysis agent, which is actually going to scan for certain vulnerabilities and configurations and other aspects to actually go into systems and look to see what's happening, then also look at the threat detection to see if there's any matching findings for anything that can be found there. So because we're waiting for, or the next step is going to be going in and actually like looking into the actual assets and infrastructure, it's waiting for human approval to actually approve the next steps. So we'll go ahead and do that. And as you can see, it's doing some more work, and will give us some time to actually see if it finds anything within the logs and other information that I can get, and actually accessing the assets from this phase here. And you can see it's quite noisy. We have a lot going on the left, and then we have quite a bit going on the right. That's because we're simulating the attack There's a lot of stuff going on here, so it's finding a lot with the assets that are being shown there. So there we go, it's coming back with a response and just formulating it. We'll give it time. There we go. And you can see here that it actually mapped those to CVE and software vulnerabilities. Then also found some configuration weaknesses based on how the assets are currently set up. And we can see here that for remote access, we actually have TeamViewer that has a weak password authentication and can see things like unattended access and also like direct external access that I was able to find through the data that was connected to it. So the next phase is the threat detection, and let's go ahead and execute that. So this will be the last step for this set of agents to go through. And again, the vector analysis and the threat detection agents were put into a plan by the asset discovery agent based on the findings. So this will be a little bit faster, and it's going to go through and actually see, are we actually under attack and where. So we can see that we actually found something right there from hydroc2.evil.com, and we'll go ahead and we'll see the final report when it finishes its analysis that we can see here. And it actually went through and did a reconstruction of the timeline that we can see. So it went through and found the very beginning of the actual event all the way to the end, where it's actually showing that there's some lateral movement attempt right here with some shared credentials. So pretty important that I found that just in time. Now, if we go back to the diagram and we click into here, we can actually see some of the information that Gemini was able to come up with when looking at the assets. So it created an overview of the actual asset that we can see here, and looking at some of the vulnerabilities that it found and some security issues, and then also some threats. So we can do a real deep dive into this. And you can imagine that if there isn't a explicit attack or something very clear based on a CVE, this can still be very helpful in finding misconfigurations or threats, or looking at other means when doing its investigation. And that can be done for every component that it goes through and looks for. So as you can see on the left, because we do have this alert, the next phase that the Gemini Mission Control is recommending is to actually deploy our response planning agent. And this is going to go through and look at all the work that's been done currently and all the investigation, and again, incorporating the data assets that are connected to or imported during the process. So you can see here that it came up with an analyst operator, immediate triage kind of plan of what to do now, and then also a long-term looking plan like strategic actions and whatnot that we can see here on the right. So obviously this can be changed based on the persona, based on the company and enterprise or operation or whatnot for what's being shown here, and the plan can match what's done currently. But finally, we can see that we have an option to have Gemini create us a report, so we can actually hand this off or send an email or just pass it off to the next team to take action, or just be aware of what's happening. So we're sending all the information that we have been able to gather through the Gemini agents, and this is going to all be compiled to a short, comprehensive report that can be shared on. You can see that we get an executive summary, we get incident timeline and attack path analysis, and we also get key findings, vulnerabilities, and also correlated response. And again, all of these can be changed, updated to whatever template or style that we need. So lastly, looking at integration, we can look at the operations dashboard and actually look at some data of what are we looking at now, or look at the bigger picture by plugging in some information using Google's Looker. Or we can also look at plugging in tools like Google SecOps and integrating with Google Maps even, to get a really good understanding of the assets that we have and that are currently being investigated throughout the country. So like we can see here with this charts from Google SecOps. And this is the demo for Google AI for cyber operations.